Hey everybody, it's your pal Drew Dracy, 30-year comic book inking veteran for all the big comics, and I've lived to tell the tale. I'm also a three-time an author on Amazon, exclusive. I wanted to cover a subject that's really been near and dear to my heart, but I haven't had enough time to research it, but I've done it, and here we go. We're going to talk about adamantium. It's supposed to be this indestructible metal. It's a resin of two different metals. Now I'm going to take a look at my Wikipedia piece I printed out. So supposedly the components of the alloy are kept in separate batches, typically in blocks of resin before molding. Adamantium is prepared by melting the blocks together, mixing the components while the resin evaporates. The alloy must then be cast within 8 minutes. Adamantium has an extremely stable molecular structure that prevents it from being further molded, even if the temperature is high enough to keep it in its liquidated form. I thought it's pretty interesting. It's almost impossible to destroy or fracture in that state. And Wolverine was the first guy who had it, and they said right up the front that it was indestructible. Okay, now let's get down to it. Get down. This is about 55 years ago. Hoo-wee. I bought this in a back issue, so I'm not that old. Beautiful Buscema cover. I just love that. That's just so great. Here we go with this is the very first appearance of adamantium, and it's signed, but I don't know who by. But it's Roy Thomas who created adamantium essentially for the comics, because the term had been pinched from adamantine, which came from a couple of prose novels like Gulliver's Travels and The Fairy Queen, but anyway, it was open season for comic books. It hadn't been established in comic books. Don't ask me how the copyright bit works. I don't think anybody ever did. And we're starting off with Barry Smith. And I'm just jagging Ron Barry. I really love your stuff. I mean, fantastic work. And here is some of his most solid stuff yet. I mean, he started off doing some a couple of books like Daredevil and last few issues of Nick Fury of S.H.I.E.L.D., and they were kind of weak. But Sid Shores inks this, and it's a nice melding of styles. The first year of when Captain America got his own book back again in 1968, it was inked by Sid Shores, and woo, it stunk. It took all the Kirby out of the faces. He basically redrew all the faces, and he was very ham-handed to where there wasn't that Kirby edge to it, that Kirby excitement. It was kind of muddied. So, Sid was still good. I even mentioned him in, I think, my last episode. So this was a much better fit. So, by the bristling beard of the All-Father, blah, 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 Thor's hammer doesn't dent this metal. Okay, I'm trying to enunciate better. And it doesn't happen, so Iron Man's like, I'll take a chance. And then finally we learn adamantium by name. I love these layouts. It's so... Newbies do some cool layouts sometimes, like Keith Giffen or when George Perez started out, that kind of stuff. So Iron Man, he's like, hey, I'll give it a shot. Zap, nothing happens. And this strikes, even when I was a kid, I bought this in a back issue bin. It was so stupid. It's like, if Thor's Uru hammer couldn't do anything, what are repulsor rays going to do? What's anything Iron Man have that would do it? And Iron Man's my number one guy. I mean, I dig him. And then Hawkeye / Goliath, he tries to beat the stuffings out of it, which totally futile. It's stupid. He's got bones, he's got skin, and nearly broke his hand. It was just dumb. Again, if they were going to do it in any order, I would have said the opposite. Goliath, Iron Man, then Thor, I like this page. It's so wacky with all these different angles. It also reminds me a little bit of the covers for the private life of Captain Strong, the Shield. So, first appearance of somebody at Adamantium, the Adamantium spokesman, or spokesmachine, called Ultron 6. He showed up 10 issues earlier, or so, a year earlier, as Ultron 5, and it was discovered that he created the Vision. He was not made of adamantium at the time, because at the end of that issue, he got tore apart. He got all tore up, and he ended up in like not a dumpster, but like I don't know, just a garage. I mean, a garbage scow. And some kid was taking the head that was disembodied. It was kicking around like a hacky sack. Then he got bored, and so that was the end of Ultron 5, or so he thought. And he comes back. The sound signals the birth of one you thought forever gone, of one who now stands composed of indestructible adamantium. Okay, pretty cool. And then we get Wolverine. I know he's around here somewhere. Don't be shy, Wolverine. Okay, well, I don't want to spoil that, but everybody knows who Wolverine is, okay? He's somewhere. He's not even there. He is, way back there. But I'll show you a better picture of him. Everybody knows who Wolverine is. So this is a good excuse for me to jump right into this. In 78 and 79, maybe 1980, Marvel did a series of prose novels featuring their characters. And usually it wasn't a jam like this. It wasn't like an anthology. It was usually like the Avengers had their own book. The FF did, the Hulk, Spider-Man, Iron Man. And you know what? They were okay. They were uneven depending on the writer. And Marv Wolfman did one for the Fantastic Four, and he admitted in an interview, he's like, you can't, it's so hard to put down the FF's origin in strictly prose form because it's so ridiculous. You know, how they snuck up on a rocket and took off and all that stuff, but which is funny. I know it's been retconned, but so Jim Shooter, who was he was the current writer of the Avengers, or David Michelini took over by this point. So he wrote this great short story, and here's something that I really think should have been held on to. Well, Iron Man describes the Hawkeye. All the adamantium resin exists in the world today would barely fill a closet. Or your mouth. It's in dribs and drabs all over the world. And that's why it's to our advantage if Ultron is intent on seizing it. It'll take him a while and maybe give us time to find him and destroy him. See, I love that idea that it was so rare. It's not rare anymore. It should have been rare. That was a great idea. And I kind of stuck to it. So did Marvel for a lot of years. Excuse me for taking a drink. So, sweet, sweet booze. Do your stuff. Actually, it's Coke Zero. So, okay, where was I? Okay, Wolverine. We know about him. Well, where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? Okay. Oh. Bear with me a second. Another time I found out about it is that glorious cover. Oh, Kane and Joe Sinnott. The Constrictor was the next guy with adamantium in it. It was in his. I think I don't know if it was a part of him or part of his costume where they connected. I don't think it was a part of him like it was Wolverine. Oh, he even mentions that. I'm working it. The Constrictor, designed by the late John Romita, and he's so good at just costuming and everything. Well, he says my whips are forged in unbreakable adamantium alloy. So there's our next time we find out about adamantium. And where should I go now? Well, I'm going to kind of jump back and forth a little bit, and you'll see the reason why. This is a good book too. Iron Fist. You know what's weird? I bought this even after comics turned 30 cents, and it was a high quality comic because you had the X-Men team on it, and it even integrated subtle little sub plots into both. It was like Misty Knight and there's somebody who was dating Colleen Wing, who was the roommate, and for the Daughters of the Dragon. So here is the next guy. Now Sabretooth, who retroactively has become Wolverine's father, believe it or not. It's so weird. That was a more recent thing, like in the 90s, which I didn't really care for because the whole like father like son thing, you know, if it was a natural part, the claws are a natural part of him, the adamantium, I could sort of see, you know, his son developing that too, but it's 100% artificial. So, it's kind of, I don't know. But, you know, he was already super massive badass enough. I mean, he would just tear people apart like Wolverine, and he didn't really need the adamantium because, or neither did Wolverine, really, but that's already been established. I think they want to do it so they can make it a fair fight between Wolverine and Sabretooth, which they did eventually. Okay, let me see. I'm trying to do the rest of these in chronological order. Okay, another Marvel Masterworks. I love Marvel Masterworks. I don't buy all of them. I just buy certain series I grew up loving. And like they have an Omega the Unknown coming up, and I'm like, huh? Really? Huh? And I think part of that's for copyright reasons. It's like, well, we haven't had a book called Omega, and we don't want to lose it like we did the Champions. Marvel didn't publish a Champion since 1977, and then they waited, and then around 1987, there was a role-playing game of superheroes called Champions, and so it kept Marvel from using the term Champions, and it was only like, it was not even 10 years ago that they got the name back somehow. I don't know. But anyway, this was a 2-issue story by David Mickley based on Jim Shooter's novel. And I would have liked it to have been like an extra issue or so, but this is George Perez's final book before he went over to DC Comics. And you know what? Much as cool as it was, I didn't like that it was abridged so much. I mean, I love compressed, stories, but something of this importance, I would have added another one. And what kills me is the inks. Mike Esposito traces over it. Basically, it's just awful. It takes part. There were earlier issues where Jack Abel inked it and it totally flattened everything out. Now Jack Abel has always been great on Herb Trimpe and others, but just sometimes things don't marry quite right. And there were other inkers that were less than sympathetic to the pencils. And jump ahead. I love this scene. He gets stuck in the adamantium as it is forming. It struggles, stiffens, and stops. And then it is done, like a tortured fly in glittering amber. Ultron stands frozen, unmovable. The threat of evil undying is over. For now. Okay, where do we go next? Okay, I'm glad you asked. Okay, glad you asked, Invisible Guy, a.k.a. me. Whoa. Alright, well, we're going to Marvel Masterworks. I showed the next volume of this in a previous episode, and I'm just doing this mostly because I'm trying to go chronological order. Because the thing with Sabretooth, I showed him earlier because he didn't have adamantium claws, but I have no idea when he got his adamantium claws. And I didn't want to just do a printout. I just wanted to mention it. And let's see. And frankly, I don't care. He got his adamantium claws. Okay. Well, one of my favorite issues of Daredevil from the Frank Miller run is when Bullseye gets dropped on his ass, like a lot from a high height. Well, great, like 6 or 7 page battle by him and Klaus Janson. And this is the kind of thing that Howard Chaykin comments on. He said the Image boys, who started Image, and they were accused of doing just action and no plot. And Howard Chaykin said, no, there's no action. It's just posturing and posing. And that's true. They really didn't, get a lot of action. It was just kind of like, oh, it's a cool image. So I digress, but because I can. It's my show. That is a great view. And, they're on this high wire, and you're just he's trying to rescue him, and then he goes, you won't see me again, I'll kill you, and you'll kill no one ever again. Wham! Okay, now, he's all busted up. All busted up. Like the blue color hold for the blinds. Ever since Miller and Jansen started using blinds for interior shots of buildings and houses and rooms, everybody did it in the 80s. It was such a huge thing. It was like every time a bad guy would say something, the blinds would be drawn. And I'm like, dude, you're not going to get enough melatonin. You're going to have to take like a vitamin D pill or something. So, okay, I have issues with this issue. Frank Miller left Daredevil with issue, why is it taking me so long? Issue 191. And after that, it became Denny O'Neil, the writer, who was previously the editor. He took over, and Klaus Janson did, like, by himself, the next few issues, which were spectacular, and they were done in ones. And then, for whatever reason, there was a rematch in issue 200, and I do love Denny O'Neil's writing in general, but I feel like with this and with Iron Man 300, he felt this compulsion, or maybe he was pressed to do something huge with the anniversary issues. Like in Iron Man 300, they took every single character from like 1964 to the then present, to Bethany Cave and beyond, and made the Iron Legion for the 300th issue. And it was kind of silly. I don't know why. Because Iron Man's supposed to be special, and there's none of that anymore. Well, great John Byrne cover. Really great. And I just think Denny wanted to get this out of the way. Because, okay, we'll just start. Some nice art. You know what? I don't know where William Johnson went to, but I really liked his stuff. Danny Bulinati, I've discussed this before. His stuff is very ham-handed and kind of gloppy. And years later on Fantastic Four, he did great stuff over Paul Ryan, but I'm not sure if he was one of the Filipino artists that came on the scene. Let me see. I'm sure they mentioned something here about his. He gets Adamantium. And working on it. Hang in there, everybody. Just. Okay. But you see, it's nice work, but the inking is just making it very pedestrian. That's the word. Basically, the Kingpin says, I see you fully recovered from your injuries. Yeah, I'm good as new. You can read this with me. He basically describes that he had his spine treated with adamantium, and that really strikes me as ridiculous. And because where did it go? Dang nabbit, gold darn it! I gotta find it. Maybe when he talks to Daredevil. Yeah. Well, like I said, this William Johnson guy, he kind of fell into the rabbit hole of good artists. If he had stayed on, I think he'd have been pretty popular. So anyway, what happens essentially with this issue, it really pisses me off, is it was a showdown that was so uneven. It was so ridiculous. It was so ridiculous because it only lasted a couple pages. Daredevil's got like a wounded arm, a sling. He easily dodges. He does this insanely high leap. He ends up beating Bullseye again, and it's like, ay, 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 you know, it's just, so what? It totally invalidates the issue that they showed off on that I showed you earlier. So I just hated it. And what's funny is, I think, like I said, I think Denny and Neil was either he felt it compelled to bring it back, or he was asked to by Shooter, and because this really, I just don't like it. But afterwards, immediately afterwards, there's a couple years where Denny really did a great job. He introduced this character named Micah Sin, or however you say his name. He was this man who grew up in the jungle, kind of like Khazar, but he was more of a barbarian. And then later on, there was the early Dave Mazzucchelli, and they both did really incredible work together. And you could see every month it was just growing and growing and growing. Well, okay, now we're going to jump. Okay. This is what's called a proto-epic. These came out, these Hulk trade paperbacks, extra-sized ones, came out, it's just the Hulk, is all it was. They did two of them at first. They did from issue 269, which is almost when the Hulk got Bruce Banner's brain for quite a long time, to Regression. And he's basically a superhero. He's a scientist, but he's also a superhero. He's got his full intelligence. And then at the Secret Wars, and during the Secret Wars, he kind of got snapped into being the Hulk again, because he broke his arm, believe it or not. That was just something Shooter put in for dramatic uses. But so Hulk goes crazy again. I'm not crazy, just he actually is worse. He doesn't even talk. It's like, and I believe Banner had supposedly died inside his brain, that side of his personality. So he was always mad. So here we go, Adamantium. This was introduced earlier, like about a year and a half prior, that Alicia Masters, the only sculptress in the whole universe, especially in the Marvel universe, made a statue of the Hulk, and he got a presidential pardon because he was now a superhero. He was doing all this other stuff. And the statue carved from pure adamantium, the most indestructible metal known to man. Wait a second. The statue stands merely a monument of memory now, and a weapon to be used in the hands of the savage Hulk. I'm like, come on. I could see him like beating the shit out of it, or taking it out of the ground and throwing it, but breaking it? Bear in mind, at this point, Sal Buscema was doing full pencils, and it was really sweet. He was going from just doing layouts to doing stuff that looked more like John Buscema than anything. Just real nice stuff. All these muscles and such. Okay. Adamantium. More adamantium, okay? So far, we have Wolverine's skeleton. I believe Sabretooth also has a skeleton treatment, as well as the claws. And then you have Constrictor. And then you have Bullseye with his spine. And then you have this statue. Did I say that already? I don't know. I don't care. And I don't know if I mentioned this off of Wikipedia, but it basically says the alloy is in two separate batches, typically blocks of resin before molding. Adamantium is prepared by melting the blocks together, making the components while the resin evaporates. The alloy must then be cast within 8 minutes. Adamantium is extremely stable molecular structure that prevents it from being further molded, even after the temperature is high enough to keep it in its liquefied form or solid form. See, all those things. Alicia's statue. Ultron should never have come back because he got melted in his own adamantium. Hoisted in his own petard, as they might say, as Barry Winslow Smith might say, but not really. So, okay, we're going into the aughts. Here is X-23. She is a clone of Wolverine, a female clone. And for some reason, she has 2 claws instead of 3. But the other thing is, too, is like, how'd you get the adamantium? Because is adamantium like a component of your DNA if you've already had it and you give it to somebody else? I think it would be akin to somebody with an artificial limb, and they have a kid, and the kid has an artificial limb. It just seems real contrived, but the character's popular, and that's a great image right there. And she's been around a while. She's been in the movies and such. And then I'm going to go to Lady Deathstrike. Another one. I don't know. She eventually got adamantium claws, but hers stretch in different ways, whereas Wolverine's come out straight. X-23s come out straight, and these sort of go all over the place. So I don't know where. Maybe the joints. I don't know how the joints are kept together, but I think we pretty much covered adamantium, and that's it. If you have any more suggestions or comments or corrections, please mention them down below. Please hit the like button, and for those who haven't subscribed, please subscribe, because I have a whole world of geekness in me. I've done 50 videos. I've barely scratched the surface on my high evolutionary grade comic book geekery memory. So anyway, thanks for coming by, and we'll talk again soon, okay? Bye.